grades 1 to 6 or 9 would be in the same building, and it is partitioned by what we know as blackboard. Can anybody identify with that? Right, so that is where I came from. But it did not prevent me from working hard and achieving. I was the first of my family to attend high school. In Jamaica, you have to pass the common entrance exam to get into high school. And so I was the first to go into high school, and then I was also the first to attend university. And in Jamaica, unlike here, there are several universities in the UK, but in Jamaica, at the time, there was only one university, so only the top 1% would get in. And thank God, at the time when I went, there was no fee. Shortly after that, they started charging. But I went when there was free education under the Manley government. So I'm giving you this information because we need to start looking at taking the limits of what we can achieve. It doesn't matter where we are from. We can actually take advantage of opportunities that are where we are. Now, the pictures that you see there, can anybody tell me what's common to that? What do you think those folks have in common? Money? Yeah, maybe. Anything? Any? Pardon? Ethnicity? Yes. And over here? Well, one is the Prime Minister. The thing that they have in common is that I taught all of them. Yes. So I will start with the one at the bottom, that's Pauline. I taught her in high school. I was fresh out of university, and I went back to my alma mater to teach, and she was there. So I taught her. At the time, she lost her father shortly after. Her mother, anybody know Spanish Down? Her mother used to sell callaloo in Spanish Down Market to send her to school. And then her mom died. So I informally adopted her, paid her school fee, she finished. She's now a chartered accountant. She's done her master's and she lives in the USA. And we are friends to this day. The young lady at the top, I taught her when I came to this country in 2002 at a school in Greenwich. She's from Zimbabwe. At the time when she was in year 7, she was very disaffected. She was having difficulty fitting into the UK system. She was one of those who was bullied, but she was very bright. And she went on, she did very well in her GCSEs, and she went on to become, if you move to the next slide, please. Miss Black Africa 2014. And now she operates her own business, and we are still in contact. Her name is Revimbo. And the third person, the Prime Minister of Jamaica, he was one of my first students when I left university. And he was an amazing student, very forward, questioned everything. We did public speaking, all of that. So I am very proud. I tell my students all the time that my claim to fame is that I've taught a Prime Minister. Because many people have taught doctors and lawyers. Yes, I've taught those, but I've taught a Prime Minister. So now when I go to Jamaica, I get invited to some of the functions if I go at the time when there are functions. And the other day when he came to London during Commonwealth Week, I went to see him. And so it's heartening because, again, he's very accomplished, but he's from a single mother family. His mother is a teacher. And he was an ordinary, no trappings. He was an ordinary student who just worked hard, got his education, then went into politics. He got a mentor. His mentor is the former Prime Minister, Edward Seaga. And so he was one of the youngest politicians, certainly the youngest Prime Minister that Jamaica has. Now, So this is people, these are people who have achieved because of their hard work and because they have taken advantage of educational opportunities. They were not born into wealth, but they have created a great life for themselves. Now, my question to you is, what is the excuse of people in the UK? Because here is a country, very wealthy, education is free, and that's a big thing. Education is free, but how much do we really value that education? If we go to the next slide, we will see that the ethnicity of students who enroll at what we call Russell Group universities, you take a look at it, the whites, predominantly, then the Asians, then the other, which are like the mixed Chinese and then the blacks. And why is this so? And we need to be questioning, why is it so? And Ken mentioned earlier about the excuses that there's racism in the society. There's racism everywhere, but many times we as a group of people are to be blamed for what happens because we do not take advantage of the opportunities that are there. Many people get sidetracked, and because of the welfare system, which is good, it's there as a net for those who can't afford to get into jobs, or because of disability, or because of age or so. But I'm talking about able-bodied young people who are not taking advantage. They can't be bothered. They are stressed. You're hearing that young people are self-harming and the suicide rate is high. Why is that so in a country where there is so much wealth, where the standard of living is good compared to developing countries or even other developed countries? And so we need to see what is it that we need to do in order to change this. Now, the first thing I would say is that education begins at home. As I said to you, my grandmother, she made me read every single night, and I had to learn scriptures as well. Okay, so she would be questioning me after I've read. I had to read and then summarize what I had read. Now, whether or not she understood everything, I still did it. And I loved my grandmother. And looking back now, I am eternally grateful to her, because for someone who had not benefited from formal education, she had the foresight, and she would encourage me. I never missed a day in school. If it was raining, she would carry me on her back. And at the time, I thought, you know, when I got to school, I'm talking about primary school. When I got to school and had to come down from my grandma's back, sometimes I felt a bit, you know, a bit ashamed. Grandma's carrying me to school, but she said, I am carrying you. And she had this notion that my feet should not touch the dirty water. And so I went, and I went gladly, and the benefits, you know, have been amazing. The teachers would lend me their books. And so home now, we need to look now to see what is it that as parents we are doing for our children. What are some of the challenges that parents face? How can we overcome them, and what strategies can we put in place? So at this stage, I would like us to spend about 2 to 3 minutes discussing amongst ourselves what are the strategies that we have used in bringing up our children, and I'm sure some people here, they have grandchildren. What in this country, what are the strategies we have used, and what are others that we need to employ in order to change what is happening to our black children so that they can start achieving their GCSEs and then applying to university and remaining in university. So can we take about 2 to 3 minutes to discuss amongst ourselves, please? If you team up, if you team up like a little group there over here, 3 or 4 groups in pairs, can we just have a little conversation? What is it? What are the challenges? I have papers here if you want to just jot down a few things as we brainstorm. Also have, because, here you go. Well, if you, that could be something that you say as well. You can take this, please. If it is something that's delegated, then that's quite all right as well. Oh.
With Sister Aisha, strategy is already there, you know what to do. Asia, that all his homework and his reading, she just needed to turn off the telly when her sons was younger, and they get on with it.
All right.
Yes, they get older and started to read. They themselves have to read every night before bed, for at least 20 to 30 minutes, and regular meeting with the teacher, talking to them to see how they're getting on in school, and of course church, bringing them to church, that values as well.
Okay, thank you. And the last group, please. Yes, yes.
Encourage them to, this is the children, their grandchildren and nieces, encourage them to do their best. They encourage them to pray and to pass on to when they encourage their children to pray, they encourage their children's children to pray and to go to church. And to use every opportunity they have in life to learn, and they also buy educational books for them.
Okay, thank you, thank you. So it is fair to say that we are doing some of what needs to be done in terms of getting our children to really start getting involved and valuing education. Can I add that, or question, when your child is in school and you get a bad report from the teacher, you go to parents' evening, what is the general response? Anybody? If your child got a bad report, your son got a bad report, what would you do? Is it the mic?
Use the mic.
Yeah, so
from our own experience, we always try to get both sides of the story. So obviously his side of the story and the teacher's side.
Yeah.
And we try to be supportive towards the teacher, because we do understand, you know, children aren't angels, you know, they don't always behave or pay attention, and it's hard for teachers to control all 30 of them. So we try to sort of work together with the teacher, and if he's not behaving in class, like with him, he likes to talk a lot. He's not disrespectful. The teachers always say he's very sweet and polite, it's just his talking.
Yeah.
So we always encourage him at home, you know, don't talk, don't get distracted, and, you know, it's not nice towards the teacher. So try to get both sides of the story and be supportive towards the teacher.
Thank you. Thank you. I like the idea of getting both sides, because what I've seen from my experience of working, especially in this country, is that when the teacher calls home, or when there is a parent meeting and the parent is told that the child is misbehaving, the parent, the black parent, shows his or her emotions right there. And many times it's not the right thing to do. Parents, the white parent, the Asian parent, will usually sit and nod calmly. The white parent most times will give a little excuse, but is never angry. But it's a black parent who becomes really angry with the child. And I have been in meetings several times when it's a white teacher and I might have been like the form tutor, and there's a black parent, and I have to lock eyes with parents for them not to get at the child. Because oftentimes there is what I call lack of knowledge about reaction. So the black child reacts to something, and the black child is seen as being aggressive. But we don't look at what caused that aggression to be out. And if we're not careful, we will see them fulfilling the expectations. For instance, the black children, and especially black boys, are 10 times more likely to be excluded by the time they get to year 9 than white boys. And black boys, again, year 10 is a crucial point, because they don't have the role model, they don't have anybody to relate to, their attitude is different, and different doesn't mean bad, but it is usually interpreted as being bad. So we as parents need to be very careful. If you get a bad report about your child, there are several things you can do. One, I would suggest you ask the teacher who started whatever he was doing, because many times the person who is the aggressor is not caught out. It is the one who reacts. So sometimes it is something that started from on the playground, and it comes into the classroom. I can use myself as an example. My son went to a private school, and I made the sacrifice to send him, not because I had the money, because I felt that would have been the best thing for him, because he did not get as much milk in his coffee as I did. So he knows, and he has known from an early stage, that whatever he's going to achieve, he has to work twice as hard. So I sent him to a very prestigious boys' school. And he told me that one day, I got a call from the teacher that he had slapped a boy. So I thought, that's odd, because my son has always told me, when he was in primary school and he was being bullied, I was the one who was getting angry, and I'm saying, look at you, I give you good food, look at your size, and you're letting this little wimp of a boy keep bullying you. Why don't you kick him? I said that to him, and he said to me, Mom, you are giving me mixed messages. At this time, it must have been about 8. He said, you're giving me mixed messages, because you're telling me now that I'm to kick the boy, and then that is me getting violent, and then I'm going to get excluded. I need to fight with my mind. And I thought, wow. So when the teacher called me, this was in secondary school that he had this altercation with the other students. So I listened calmly, and I put on my best suit to go and visit the teacher because the meeting was called. I went, I dressed up, and I went. And the teacher explained what happened, and then I asked my son what happened. And it turned out that because he is usually a very quiet disposition, there was this white boy who took a set on him. He kept picking on him. And he was doing the thing that, you know, ignore him, focus on your lesson, ignore him. And this particular day, the boy poked him and tripped him up on his way to lesson. So he turned around and slapped the boy. So when all of that came out, I stood my grounds. And I told the teacher that my son is not going to be punished without the other boy being punished. I said, he reacted. But what was done? What did you do when this was happening? And so because of that, they had to punish the other boy as well, because I would not have it. So we really have to, many times, fight on behalf of our children. When the teacher calls, be like the solicitor. Listen, defend your child there, but when you go home, you're obviously going to have that conversation with him so that you know that so that he keeps on the right track. But be very careful, because especially when they are bright, there is, I don't know what is in the system to derail them. So you have very bright black boys in particular who are not achieving, who underachieve. The teachers will give them a target, and it keeps them within the boundary. I do tuition privately, and there's a student who came to me. His target is a 7, and he is currently, according to his teacher, he's currently working on a 6. He's in year 11, and he's doing really well. So I said to him, what are the possibilities? It's from 1 to 9. So if you're working on a 6, it means you still need to do 7, 8, then 9. Why are you being complacent? Now, this is a very bright boy, but the teacher is teaching him so that he can get a 6 or a 7 at best. So when I showed him, I said, this is the difference between a 6 and a 7. You need to do a bit more analysis here. You need to use your quotes. You need to do that. He started doing that. So now he is getting 8s. And I said to him, but 8 is not the top. You need to aim for the top. So we have to keep raising the bar. Okay? Now I'm going to show you on the next slide a few students who have excelled because they do additional activities. Their being in school is good. The after-school activities, they are good. But we have to do the extras if we really want them to succeed, if we really want them to get into the best schools, and hence the best universities, and hence the jobs, so that they can change the quality of their lives. This particular student, let me see now. It is in all schools. She is from the school of Croydon. She goes to school in Croydon. And she's 14 years old. Her mother is a friend of mine. She's a teacher as well. And sometimes when we are fighting for our children, we get labels, not by externals, by our own people. So we are known as a pushy parent. We push them into drama, and we push them into music, and we push them into all sorts. But that's what we have to do, because that's what the Asians do. That's what the whites do. They push them. The whites, they go to grammar school. It's not because the grammar school are so fantastic in their teaching, But when they send them to the grammar school, they then get a tutor and they get tuition. They don't have any more brain cells than us, but they spend their money wisely. So here is Tasia, 14 years old, and she applied for the job of mayor. What did I do? Yeah.
My name is Stacey Jade Bogle. With your support, I hope to become Croydon's first young mayor. I have lived in Croydon for most of my life. I am proud to be growing up in Croydon, a borough that has over 82,000 who can impact the future. I'm excited about the changes we can bring to Croydon as a collective, gifted and diverse group of young people. I'm aware of the struggles our children and young people face daily. These problems have caused some of us to subscribe to negative stereotypes and perceptions. We need to change the negative views that some of us have of ourselves, but also the negative perceptions that others may have. I want to lead that change. If elected, I intend to open up opportunities for young people, which will showcase their interpersonal and entrepreneurial skills, setting up empowerment programs where the youth will come together and sell different products, gaining business skills. Another project I would work on is establishing Croydon's first radio station, managed by young people. However, I cannot do this alone. I need your support. Join me. Together we will make these initiatives a success. Together we will build a culture of excellence for Croydon's children and young people. Thank you.
Now, Tasia, Tasia is...
I'm sure you've heard that love...
Thank you. Tasia is, as I said, she's 14, and she's 15 this year. She is the first black child in her school to become head girl. And it's not by coincidence. Her mother sends her to speech and drama classes. She sends her to, she does sporting events, she plays music, she sings, and she wants to be a lawyer. And she plans to attend Oxford or Cambridge. Her targets are all 9s. And she is such a brilliant girl that there is nothing that's going to stand in her way. She works really, really hard. And because she has been elected the first black girl in her school, her peers don't like that. So even now in year 11, she has to be facing all of those challenges. But she's a very forward-thinking young lady, and I'm sure that she will do well. The next clip of someone who has done well as a black student is of Jerome. I taught him a couple of years ago, and he was not particularly well cooperative in terms of a student. Very challenging student, very challenging parents as well, where I don't know if you're aware, but as a black teacher in the schools, it is harder. And the black parents oftentimes almost hold you to a higher standard. So they like you feel the pressure. It's as if you have to constantly be proving that you are good enough. And so the parent of this child was like that. But I worked with him, and he entered the Speak Out Challenge, which is an opportunity for young people to speak and to go at the national, the regional, the school level, then the national level, the regional level, and then the national level. So he was in my class in 2014, and he was the runner-up. He won from the school, and then he was the runner-up in Croydon in the regional level. So I want you to listen to his speech.
Love and fear is the root of all emotion. All positive endeavor is associated with love. Negative, destructive action is motivated by fear. A perennial problem Britain is facing, particularly London, is gang crime. We hear of young men and women constantly being talked about in the news for wasting the lives of others or for losing their own. We are bombarded by the troubles young London streets face due to gangs. This is a subject very close to my heart. It makes me angry when I hear of young black boys killing each other. Respectable parents, particularly mothers, get paranoid about their child being caught up in this culture. We tend to see mothers keep their children off the streets. Despite a supposed decrease in crime, gangs are on the increase, and in my opinion, is becoming more and more celebrated among the young people of today. We see them imitate their action and mimic their words, and to me, this is a worrying sign. Is this the future of Britain? 2 years ago, a crime so awful, so devastating, shocked the nation. A corner shop in Brixton was the venue for this atrocity. A 5-year-old girl was dancing, minding her own business, when from nowhere, bullets were flying at her at rapid, deadly speed. She was tragically caught in crossfire between 2 rival gangs and was left paralyzed. Can you imagine the devastation that young girl endured? Her life had been ruined due to the stupidities of 3 young men and the audacious crime that is gang culture. So what is it that young people are afraid of? I put it to you that although we put on an intimidating mask to cover up our insecurities and vulnerabilities, we're really just afraid of not belonging and feeling as if we are nobodies, excluded from society. And what happens is that we start to be afraid of everyone, and everyone around us, including ourselves, becomes the enemy. A great man I look up to, who goes by the name Martin Luther King Jr. said, "Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that." We should learn to embrace ourselves, be proud for what we are, and we can, in turn, love each other with love and dignity.
So that's Jerome. And the last one I want to share with you is...
we are now on to our 6th speaker this evening. He wishes to be remembered as the kid with $1 million smile, and his 3 desert island items would be a tank full of fuel, an aeroplane, and a pilot. His favourite saying is also one of mine: "Don't tell me the sky's the limit when there are footsteps on the moon." Brilliant. With a speech entitled "Our Secret Weapon," and representing the London Borough of Southwark, Najee Hackett.
All I ever hear is, "Najee, the sleep justify why you were late for school?" Or, "Najee, the sleep justify why you didn't wash the dishes last night?" Or, "Najee, the sleep justify why you didn't turn off the TV last night?" Well, ladies and gentlemen, sleep is the perfect excuse. Because sleep to me is showing me that I respect my body for all the hard work I have done during the day. Sleep is relaxing, revitalizing, replenishing. It's just great. There are so many benefits to sleep, such as better awareness, better concentration skills, and better judgment. So why do we teenagers go to bed late at night and wake up early in the morning, when as teenagers we are meant to get 8 to 10 hours of luxurious sleep in order for our bodies to function correctly? It makes no sense. It is fact, motorcycle accidents on the roads of London have increased, and one of those factors are lack of sleep. So adults in the audience that drive a vehicle, when you are sleeping at night, you are heroes. You are saving lives. Take this moment and pat yourself on the back and say, "I am a hero." And children, don't look at your parents as gloomy and boring when sleeping on the sofa after eating supper, but say, "My mom's a hero. My dad is a hero." Talking about heroes, do you think Nelson Mandela, Michael Jordan, Martin Luther King would be where they were today without sleep? Oh no, my friends. Take Nelson Mandela. He's got sent to prison for 27 years. He slept for 14 years, 8 months, 3 weeks, and 2 days. He led his country to a revolution with his slumber on Robben Island. Michael Jordan, the greatest basketball player to ever touch the court. Before a hard game, he slept. After a hard game, he slept. He grew tall with sleep. Martin Luther King, you will know him, right? He had a dream. And you cannot have a dream whilst awake, my friend. So you guessed it. He slept, and through that sleep, he had a dream. Now I've told you about the greats of the past, but let me tell you about an expert, a champion. Through his sleep will become a leader, a believer, the man of tomorrow. Ladies and gentlemen, this great man is Najee Hackett. And ladies and gentlemen, this is confidential. Sleeping is essential. And always remember, sleeping is essential. Sleep more, improve your potential.
Thank you. So, you see why he was the winner. Because here is a situation that in schools, as a part of the GCSE English program, the students have to do a speech. And so these black students, they would have really well in their speech because it's their confidence, it's how they project their voices, it's their use of humor, as in the case of Naja. So I am saying to you, help your children to develop that self-confidence, whatever program they can get involved in to do that. At church, this is a great start. This is a great place to be where they come up and do presentation. And if I may say so, if your child comes up and does a presentation and doesn't do it to the standard you're expecting, talk to them so that next time. Sometimes they do very little and we say, oh, well done. We should not tell them well done when it's not well done. We should say, okay, you tried, but you need to do better. So if we do that, we will see our children really excelling and achieving their potential. Now, let me go to the next slide, please. Right. You know, talking about achieving your potential, one of the things we need to do is to recognize that we need to have goals. Because many times, if I were to go to the room and speak to the young people, I'm going to just put you on the spot. What do you want to be when you grow up?
I don't know.
What do you want to be?
Mainly a footballer, but there's so many other things.
Okay. Forrest, have you thought of anything else?
Maybe, I don't know, actually.
Well, you want to be a footballer, and you're not sure. I'm coming to you. What do you want to be? What do you want to be when you grow up?
Lego designer.
A Lego designer. What do you want to be when you grow up? What do you want to be? You tell me. A singer.
I want to be an archaeologist.
Archaeologist. What do you want to be? Pass it to him.
I haven't made my choice yet.
You haven't made your choice yet. Okay, fair enough. Please pass on the microphone. Now, I heard some great goals. Archaeologist, footballer, Lego designer. And can I say to you, they are all possible. Those who haven't decided yet, you're young, you have the time now to think. You need to go and read about. If you have an idea, read about what you need to do to get that. If you want to be a footballer, you need to read up, perhaps find some biography or autobiography of footballers and see, because many times we see the footballers, they earn a lot of money, they're in fame, but you need to look at what it takes to get to that point, right? So in order to do that, we need to be setting goals. And if you see there, many people do not achieve their goals because they don't write them down. The goals, they say they want to be something, but it's just an idea. Okay, can I see the next slide? So the people who wrote the goals down and worked towards them, they achieved their goals 10 times more than those who just said, I want to be something. I want to be a lawyer. I want to be an architect. I want to be a footballer. You have to write it down and decide what it is that you need to do. Look at what it is you need to do. Talk to people. You have the availability of the internet where you can research, find out as much information as you possibly can. For those who want to go into the, for instance, you want to be, did you say architect? Archaeologist. Now you need to research what is it you need to do from this stage. My son, from he was 3, he has wanted to do medicine. And he has a natural ability for electronics, he's very good at maths, he's good at chemistry, physics. So this is his mother. Son, why don't you just do engineering? He said, no, that's not what I want to be. Then he's very good at maths. He said, why don't you do banking? Or because whether or not you're aware, it is the most difficult field to get into as a black boy is medicine. They let a few into law in the top universities. You can do a law degree, a dime a dozen at the regular universities, but to get into the top one, just a few are let in. Engineering, because the country is now saying they need engineering, they are letting in black boys, a few. In fact, if you're a girl, you stand a better chance because black boys are not supposed to be smart. There is somewhere else for them. But when it comes to medicine, it is one of the fields where there is no scholarship, there is no help at all, and it is a closed community. Look around you. Doctors, Asian, 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 white. Asian, Asian. Do you think they have more brain cells than us? Do you know how difficult it was for him to get work experience? In order to apply, you have to show that you have some clinical experience. So he got 1 week in a hospital, and then he needed more experience. I had to fly to Jamaica to get him 2 weeks experience in a medical practice. As simple as you take the hospitals, there's no space, because he doesn't fit. So that's why his mother keeps saying, why don't you think of something else? And he said, no, that's what I want to do. So we have to make sure we know that some of the fields that we choose, they are very difficult. They're locked. So as a result of that, we're finding many young people, the boys want to be a footballer. And that's the glamour of all of that. The girls want to be in performing arts, and they'll be finished and they want to do travel and tourism or media. In terms of a career path, it's difficult. In terms of getting into something substantial. So they will start, but they don't finish. Okay? So we have to help them and guide them. So, and obviously, I can understand parents will say, well, I can't choose for him, I can't choose for her, whatever she wants, whatever he wants will make him happy. We have to guide if we want to break that cycle, if we want to start positioning ourselves and positioning our children to really take charge and to make a difference. Okay? Now, can we go down to the next slide, please? Right. So, goal setting. You see there we have different types of goals, the long-range goals. So the young people here who are saying what they want to be, those are long-range. Perhaps if you're at a stage where you are thinking of GCSE or a college, and it'd be short, medium range, and short range is where perhaps you're looking into a job and so on as an adult or a young adult. So the kinds of goals that we would have: economic goals, business, personal growth. The important thing, though, in formulating a goal is that we have to think big. I have a book here. This is next to my Bible. This is a read I recommend for young people. The Magic of Thinking Big. In fact, it was one of my past students, years after becoming an entrepreneur in the States, returned to Jamaica, and he recommended that for me. And it's an amazing book. You have to think big. Sometimes we just keep ourselves, you know, I just want to do that and I'll be happy with that. But if you think you like to travel, you want to drive a nice car, you want to wear nice clothes, you have to think of a job, something to do that will allow you to do that independently. Then when you think big, you have to be specific. You have to write down your goals, and that's when you know now that you are really setting your goals. You write them down and you read them. What I say to my students, if you're doing a topic, and let's say you set your short-term goal, you would like to get an 8 or a 9 in your GCSEs. When you do your work, when you're revising, you put your notes in your room, take down everything else, paste them on the wall. Put your keywords there, put your definitions, the main points, and as you read them every night before you go to bed, there's a transformation of something that moves from your eyes to your brain. You learn them. And of course, when you write them down, you learn them even more. There is always that. We have to be careful that we don't get too caught up with the electronics. I was very pleased to hear the parents over this side saying that they take away the electronics from the students. Now, don't get me wrong, we are in a technological age, and the young people, they need to know how to use these gadgets, but we have to be careful because they sap their energy. The child who is constantly watching TV, you would figure, well, he's seeing all of these things and it make him smarter. No. Turn the TV off and let him read a book. And you will see the difference in very short time. So, and when they're watching TV, we have to monitor them. Sometimes the TV is used as a babysitter. Let's be honest. As a babysitter, because we have a busy lifestyle and we can't always be there for them. But we have to find ways of monitoring. I know, again, Asian parents, when the children come from school, they check their phone in. There's this parent who told me he gets the phone to come to school, and when he comes through the door, that's my phone until in the morning. He's not being on any phone in the night doing FaceTime and all the other wonderful things that young people do on phone. And that boy, he knows, he understands electronics, but he also understands that if he spends so much time doing the socializing with friends, he will not get the energy to do his work. So we need to visualize, see ourselves as, no, can you go back to there? See ourselves where we want to be. And when we visualize, it means we need to get pictures. Put pictures, so you want to be a footballer? Get a picture of your favorite footballer, put him on the wall. Read his autobiography. Get your car, your favorite car. Put a picture of it because you're visualizing what your life is going to be. Get a copy of your house, picture, put it on the wall. And you will now know this is what I need to work towards. And believe that you can do it, because when the going gets rough, many people give up. Again, if I were to refer to my personal experience where when it's winter and we really don't feel like going out. When I have the few black students who come to me, if it is raining, I get a call, oh, not feeling well today. And I'm thinking, no, it's because it's raining why you're not coming. They don't come. The Asian, they are there and they're on time. And so they end up getting much better results. Again, not because they are smarter, but because they take the time. So rain or shine, they're there. If I'm to use my son was struggling with biology in A-levels. Although he got an A star in GCSE, he changed school, went to a grammar school, and they thought he was a rich posh boy coming from a private school. So he had a hard time. And they didn't know that he was just ambitious black boy trying to push and to do the best that he can. And the teacher, he said to me, Mom, I have to be teaching myself. And I don't even know where to start. So I checked out for it. I said to him, I heard that there's a biology tutor, but all I have is a number. You want to pass the biology? You better find it out. He went, he called. It was 1 hour and 45 minutes from home and 1 hour and 45 minutes return if he took the train and then a taxi. His mother could not afford a taxi. So he had to take the train and then walk. So it turned out to be like 4 hours return journey. And every Saturday morning, the lady only had a 9 o'clock appointment. So, you know, he had to get up on a Saturday morning and he had to find himself there. Because I couldn't drop him because I had to now be doing the extra tuition in order to pay for that because it was £40 per hour for that. But would you know that it turned around? In 6 months, his grades turned around and he did get his A in A-levels. And that was primarily down to him because he knew that he needed the grade and he knew that he had to make the effort and go. So we have to now make sure that we push our children. When they don't want to do it, we have to let them know that this is what you want to achieve, so you have to do this. It's not easy, and obviously we work them hard, so we have to find ways to pamper them. And as talking about pampering, when they are teenagers and they start giving attitude, don't push them away. Because parents do that, parents all around. They push them away and, oh, they're so difficult now. That is when they need the most love. That is when you can't stand them. When they are back chatting, that is when you have to find a way. And this is where prayer comes in. And we have to realize that we have to make sure we as parents do our part, and our children do their part, and the school and the community does its part, and you will see the results that you are looking for. Go to the next one. Right. So then, education is a lifelong learning process. We have to commit quality time to learning. So one of the things we need to do is to be respectful of time. As a teacher, if a student is late for my class, they have to come, like, you know, like when this worship is in session and you're late and you have to tiptoe. That's how they have to do for my class because I'm a stickler for punctuality. So you have to respect time. You have to respect the person who is delivering. As I said, some of the most challenging students I've had are the black children. They don't respect the black teacher as much. You will have the white children coming and sitting and asking you a question and trying to get as much as they can when they know you're a good teacher. There are others who will just shrug a shoulder. You will have the few who will come to you, but the respect that they have, they give more respect to the white for whatever reason, who doesn't care anything about them. I remember this girl a couple of years now, when I just started teaching in Croydon, and it was a difficult class, because as a black teacher, you get the difficult classes. You're not getting set 1 and 2. You're getting set 4. And if you're lucky, set 3. And this girl was in set 3 in year 9. And she's British-born, Jamaican parents. But somehow, I don't know what her experience of Jamaica had been before, but she was very negative towards me. The moment I spoke, she gave me an attitude. And she went and complained to the head of English that she wanted to be out of my class. Now, the head of English knows my value. So she said to me, and that one, she came and told me that she wants to be out of your class. She isn't even middle class. Now, this is the white head of department talking to me about a black girl, and said she isn't even middle class. Don't listen, don't peer and imagine. And when I saw that, I thought, wow. So I took her under my wings. I had to pray though, you know, it wasn't easy. But she had so much potential, she was bright. And I took her one day and I told her off properly until she cried. I said, how dare you? Obviously, I had to keep it professional. I couldn't go and say to her, why did you go and complain to the head of department? But if she had any sense, she would know that I knew that she had reported me. And when it came, she was in year 11, and her target was a C. And I said to her, anybody can get C. I don't have time to waste. If you want to get better, you need to come back after school, and I will help you. And she started coming. And her grades went up to B. And it was the days of coursework. So when she did the first piece of coursework, it was a D. I marked it, gave her back, she improved it. Marked it, gave her back. Her coursework was an A star. Did you know she got A star for English? And she went on to get accepted among the first black ones from the school to get accepted at Oxford. So she realized later on that I could deliver the goods. But she did not know, because when I heard what my head of department said about her, I thought, you'd say the same thing about me. Because you're talking about a black girl to me, and you're talking as if, okay, well, you figure, well, all right, you're middle class, so I can say to you. It doesn't sit well with me at all. So we have to just be remembering always that we have to try to empower our students, our children, as best as possible. I recommend some reads, as I said, The Magic of Thinking Big, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and Black Boys Can. It's a black lady who has written that. Very useful. If you have black boys, you need to read that and get them to read it and see themselves. There's also Gifted Hands by Ben Carson, which is a very good read for black boys who want to go into further education, and especially medicine, because here it was, Ben Carson, at the time, his mother was unable to read, she was doing odd jobs, but he had to do a book review every day, every week for her. And she would tell it and read. She couldn't read, but he didn't know. It was only afterwards that he realized, and he went on to be one of the best neurosurgeons that America has, and he then went into politics. So there is a term that says, remember that everything that is precious is always hidden. If you think about a pearl, it is hidden in the little oyster. So everything that is precious. When you think of diamond, it is hidden deep in the rocks and the other precious gems. So because it is hidden, we have to find ways of unearthing and finding what is there. And so once we find it, we need to increase our capacity to receive. And in increasing our capacity to receive, we need to ensure that we be the change agent. Not just sit by, but take the ideas that I've presented, put them into practice and watch them work for you. Look at the tremendous ability that you carry as young people. Parents, look at the ability that your children carry. Speak life into them. Don't tell them that they look like their father and no good. Because you will see traits that maybe they remind you of that negative encounter or so, but do not curse your children. I'm not saying don't correct them. You need to correct your children, but do not curse them. Do not, because when we are angry, we tend to take out our frustration on them. And so we have to be very careful that we do not put a damper on the blessings that are in store for us and our children. When you increase your capacity, you will break the barriers. So in order to break the barriers of poverty, you have to go through education. It's one of the best ways that is known that breaks the barriers. You have to break the barriers of lack, and you have to break the barriers so that you can achieve your full potential. And I trust that you, having listened to these few words, you will take away something today that will help you to recognize the great potential that is in each of us, and that the opportunities that are available. Remember, that which is precious is always hidden, so we have to search for it. Thank you for listening, and God bless you.
Let's give another round of applause to Lorna. Wonderful. You can do better than that. She really did tell you something, didn't she? I think we really need to get more information for our people. Because what we see today is that a lot of the boys are failing, and the girls, a lot of our girls are doing well, but we can all do better. So we want to be appreciative of the situation. And isn't it nice to know that we've been spoken to by somebody who has taught great people, the Prime Minister of Jamaica. But before I shut down, are there any questions you wanted to put to Lorna?
Okay, excuse my voice. This was sent to me a couple of days ago. They said, officials charged Prince George Community School with grade inflation due to high graduation rates of black students. Officials charged Prince George Community School with grade inflation due to a graduation rate of black students.
So what's your question?
What you're saying is, she's saying that the authorities charge the school with grade inflation. You know, when the school, when you inflate the grades to let the students see higher grades,
okay.
charge them with grade inflation.
Yeah. So what's your question?
On that people that they look forward to have these ability. All right, so you're seeing it here, yes, where there's prejudice that the black should not reach this qualification, this standard of education.
Yes. And that is a real problem, because and that is why parents have to be vigilant.
And this could be things that, interfere with the black children's minds as well.
Well, here is where the parents come into place. Because I don't know if the situation where I mentioned, gave you the example of my son having experienced bullying, and the school did very little. This was at the primary level. The first thing the teacher said to me at the time was, they can't quite figure out what kind of child he is. Perhaps he has autism because he doesn't mix with the other children. Because I told my son, when it's break time, make sure you're revising what you did in the morning. You don't have any time to, you will socialize, but make sure if you get a book and read. And so they thought something was wrong with him. And then when he was older and he went to secondary school, and the boy who I said who tripped him up and poked him was because he had excelled in the test. He got the top mark, so how dare him as a black boy get that? So the prejudices are there, but we have to be careful that, and this is, we have to encourage the children, because if they allow it to get into their psyche, they're finished. They're finished. So you have to still find a way to deal with it and to encourage them to make sure that they are not discouraged. And when they apply, and you know and they know that they have better marks than the other white boy or Asian boy, but they get selected and they don't, you still have to say to them, carry on. It's hard. I'm not pretending that it's easy. It's very difficult. And this is where, again, very few black teachers are in the schools. And it is not because the teachers are not capable, but it's by design. Many of the black teachers who are in the school are the ones who are teaching the other subjects. The core subjects are science, maths, and English. In English, there are very few black teachers. And they have a way of squeezing out the experienced ones and bringing in the newly qualified ones who they can mold and who have the perception of a black student. So the black and the racism is never going to go away. It doesn't matter how they put the Band-Aid over it. But what we have to do is to take responsibility and to find ways of empowering our students. Again, when I started teaching in this country, there were lots of friction because they would be having conversation about the fusses that he says I'm black. So I remember having that to deal with, and I was very annoyed. The black boy is getting all flustered. He said I'm black. I said, so what are you? You're black. Embrace it. If he says you're black, that is not racist. If he treats you differently or badly because of your color, that is racism. But prepare for it. So like my son, as I said to you, to him, you know you're black. He doesn't have an issue with his black. He says to me, he plays Frisbee, I know that. And I'm saying, you need to focus on your lesson. I don't want to spend so much time playing this Frisbee. And he said, Mom, there has to be a balance. You talk about work-life balance. I can't just study. I need to do something. And then he's always on the phone, on the computer in the holidays. So I'm saying, you need to close the computer and rest. And then he tells me he is arranging the tournaments and so on. They're going to be playing Oxford this day, and they're going to be in Cambridge there, and they're going to be playing. So I'm saying, so what are you? He said, I am in charge of the club. And then I designate the players for the A team, B team, that, and I do the budgeting. Then this is me. Oh, okay. So he doesn't, and he's the only black one on the team. But he is the captain of the entire club. He doesn't allow his blackness to get in the way. Is it easy? No. And he doesn't have, funny enough, he doesn't have a lot of black friends either. Because the black friends think that he's behaving white. Because my son could never come. You know this thing about walking like an Egyptian in your trousers down here? Couldn't happen. He never thought of it. In fact, even in winter, he wears like a gentleman coat. He doesn't wear hoodie. He doesn't even want just a semblance of it to be linked to that culture. Because he knows that that is the expectation of black boys. And he cannot afford to have that stereotype. Yeah, so the prejudices are there to answer your question, but we have to empower children.
This morning, while I was tidying up church, they could be about 3-year-old. They came in the ladies. So one said to me, you live here? I said, no. I clean the church. But I said, no, this is my church. I clean the church. Well, meaning I attend here. She said, your church? I said, yes, because I realized where she's going. She said, no, this is everybody's church. Yeah, she said, this is everybody's church. From there, I said, what you really came in here to do? She said she wanted to use the toilet. I said, this one already clean. She said, okay, let me use this one. She went and she used it. But the other one, I said, what you want to do? She came in with her. She said, you know, this is why it's everybody's church and not the English people church, because the English people are... I said, what are you? She said, I am brown. I said, Dolly and Black Dolly and stuff, and they're questioning the children, and because of what they teach the children, is the best Dolly and not the black ugly. So they consider themselves ugly because of what they're teaching them. Parents, a child, 3-year-old,
yeah,
told me today, I am brown, I am not black.
So we have to, this is where again, parents need to empower their children. Yes, I hear, in fact, I even heard a colleague the other day, a child said he's from South Africa, and he's a black man. He says, I'm not black, I'm colored. Okay. Okay, so that's why I'm saying to you, even among our own, there is prejudice, because people figure, well, I'm a little lighter, so I'm better. And it's the prejudices that we have developed, which we need to find ways of overcoming. And embracing it, there is nothing wrong with being black. Embrace that and do the best that you can. That is what it's all about.
Yeah, I've got a question.
Yeah.
Regarding what you said about, you know, when you look at your children and they naturally like something else, like doing maths or science, but they want to be something completely opposite. So in that situation, do you encourage them what they want to be, or do you force them to be what we see as parents that they could be? If that makes sense.
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
The way I would answer that is, if I have a child, if I had a child and the child says, I want to be a singer, and I know that the child is able to do maths and English well and history and so on, I would not say you can't be a singer, but I'm saying get your education first. You know the Marleys. Bob Marley was a great singer, and his children. He did not get them into the music whilst he was alive. You know what he did? He sent them to one of the best schools in Jamaica. So Ziggy went to St. George's. So now, and the other Marleys, they went to the best prep school and the best secondary schools, so that they can now hold their own and develop their business. Obviously, they went into the music industry, but now they are ahead because of the education. So we have to know if it is practicable. What is it? It comes back to, is it a wish, or is it yeah? So, or is it something that's feasible? And I'm not saying that there is anything wrong if that is what the child can do. But we should push them to do more. There's nothing wrong with being more, increasing your capacity. So you like to do, you want to be a fashion designer. But we know that to be a fashion designer, it's not as straightforward. So even if you're good at sewing, you can't just be a fashion designer. So the road is more challenging than it seems. So we just have to keep guiding them as best as possible. And even if they say, let's say, give me a profession that they would want to be, that you wouldn't necessarily want them to be.
You know, I'm not going to lie, actor.
Right. That's a good one. So if you want to be an actor, then you have to ensure that that child is going to stagecoach. You have to ensure that that child is doing drama, extra. You have to make sure the child is going to dancing lesson. You have to make sure the child is going to speech and going to the museum, going to listen to, going to the theater. Otherwise, it's just a fleeting dream. Yeah? Any other question? Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, let's give a round of applause to Lorna. Yes. Thank you so much, Lorna, for coming, and sorry that we started late. We want to encourage everyone who missed this to get on our website and watch it over again, because the information that's been supplied here is essential for many of our children to be able to focus on growth in their education. So thank you very much for coming, and we appreciate you. Thank you. Let's give her another round of applause as we close and we go. So we thank the Lord very much for the she took the time to come, and at this time we're going to go into our gospel service. Just have a 5 minutes break, and then we'll start our praise and worship. Thank you so much, Lorna.